Hello everyone, my name is Luke, and today what I'm going to be showing you is Autopsy version 4.6. I think some of you might be familiar with Autopsy, the version 2.24. This is the version that's found in Cane and also Sans Sift, but this is actually the newest version, and this can actually be used on a Windows operating system. So today what we want to do is we want to use Autopsy to analyze data that was found from an image file that we extracted from a computer system. So we've already extracted that file, and what we want to do now is analyze it and then create a report. So that's what we're going to do. Once you open up Autopsy, you're going to get this screen, and it's going to give you three different options: a new case, open recent case, or open case. Today we're going to be clicking on new case. We're going to put the case name in. For today I'm just going to do something simple, test 2. The directory, this is where all my information is going to be housed. This is good for me, so I'm going to hit next. Then I'll put in the case number. You'll want to use whatever kind of numbering system you usually use. The examiner's name, that would be yourself. Then you put in the phone number, your email, and any notes that's relevant to this case. Then we'll click on finish, and what this is going to do, it should do this pretty quick. It's going to load up everything, and it's going to ask us what type of data source are we using, whether that's disk image, local disk, logical disk, an allocated space image file. Today we're using a disk image, so we'll keep that checked, and we'll come down to next, and then we're going to browse for that. This is where I housed mine, was in my downloads folder, so I'll open that and I'll hit next. We want to keep everything here selected. We'll click next, and it's basically building our case right now. This will take a little bit of time. It shouldn't take too long. Alright, it says that everything has been uploaded. Now it's analyzing. Now this process does take a lot of time. I've actually already uploaded this this case beforehand, so I know that this takes about 2.5 to 3 hours for this particular image that I'm uploading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this, and then when I come back, everything will have been uploaded. Okay, one moment. Okay, and I'm back. So, as you can see, everything has been uploaded to this case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top here on the menu bar. If we wanted to add more, more sources, I guess. So depending on the images, so I should say depending on the computer system that you image, you might have multiple image files. So if we needed to add another one, we could come up to the add data source, and from here it's going to take us through what we had already done, and we just add another source. But today we don't need to do that. Another option we have is the image and videos option. This is actually something that we don't necessarily need to use. We will have access to all the images and videos through this particular running through this left pane and the right pane. But it is kind of neat to go into image and videos. It kind of it has its own platform kind of, and it goes through just the images and videos, so it kind of isolates you from everything else and just focuses right on that. But today we're not going to really go into that. Timeline option, that's another really neat option as well. I haven't ever really used any kind of timeline option that's quite like this one. Again, we're not going to go into this, but this is basically going to show you all the user's activities, whether it was with application files, whether it was with audio, video, web searches, that sort of thing, and kind of put it in a timeline for you to see. Again, that is very dialed in and would take way too much time for this particular video, so that'll be something that we'll do in a different video, but it is pretty neat. Now today, when we're all said and done, we are going to go and use this, the generate case, or generate report. option. And again, I'll get into that once we get to that. But those are our options up here on the top. We also have the keyword list. This allows us to kind of look at the different keywords, and then the keyword search. This allows us to actually search through the data with keywords. And we'll kind of cover that very briefly as we get to that. So what I want to do is I want to come down to the left-hand portion, and we'll highlight the data source. So this is showing us where this data source is, where the data is coming from. And this is the image that we uploaded. So I can click the plus button, and this is going to allow me just to dial down deeper and deeper if I wanted to. I can do it that way, or I can just come over to the right hand portion of the screen, and I can double click on that, and then from there you'll see that information popped up on the bottom part of this screen. And then from here we can see the hex of this. It also has strings, but again, nothing too terribly important right here. If we want, we can scroll over here, and this is going to tell us just about the image, the size of it, the hash. We have the hash here. It tells us the device ID, but nothing too terribly important in regards to what we're wanting to do. We'll definitely want to include this in the report, but again, we want to kind of dive a little bit deeper. So what I'm going to do is go back to my left-hand pane. I'm going to look at the views, and from here again we can use the plus and minus, or we can just very simply come over here to the right hand side, and we can look at what kind of views are out there. We can look by file types, and we can also look at the deleted files as well, which is very important to any kind of case, is to look at the deleted files. But before, let's look at the file types, because this is going to kind of give us a it's going to sort everything for us basically. So once I click on that, then we can look, okay, do we want to look at file types by extension or type? If we do extension, this is going to show us images, videos, audio. Let's click on the images. So I just double click, and what you'll notice is right now we're in the table version. So this is kind of a list version. This tells us, you know, what kind of image this is. This is a JPEG. This tells us the location, the modified time, change time, the created time, all that sort of information. It gives us the hash as well. Or what we could do is we could come down to the thumbnail option, and this allows us to see a thumbnail of all the images. So we have a little preview of each of these images, and from here we can dial down deeper by just clicking on it. So I've clicked on this, and then you'll see on the bottom hand screen again I have the image, but from here I can click on media. Again, this shows us the image, or I can come in. Index text isn't going to do anything for us because this is a image file, but if I do on the file metadata, this is going to show us all the information that we saw on the table list view. This is going to show us the type, this is going to show us the size, the modified time, the access time, created time, the hash, all that good stuff. Everything that we saw before on that other view will show us here. So I particularly like to use the thumbnail version when I'm looking at images or videos. I think it's more helpful to kind of see what you're looking at. So that's how you can do it by extension. You can also look at it by types. Kind of get back on the table version. And that's something that you'll need to kind of keep in mind. It's easy to kind of go through different, clicking on different kind of extensions and types over here on the left-hand pane, and you don't realize that you're still on thumbnail version. You can't see anything. So you need to make sure that you're on table versus thumbnail, depending on what you're clicking on. So again, on the file types, we can look at the type, we can look at applications, audio, image, etc. And another way that we can maneuver around is up here in the very top left portion is a little arrow, so we can go backwards on what we were doing. Instead of just maneuvering around, we can go forwards and backwards. So what I want to look at now is going to be the deleted files. Double click on that. We can look at the file, all the file systems, everything that's been deleted in the whole filing system. Again, I don't know that the thumbnail is going to give us much for this. It might. It's still thinking, so let's give it a little bit of time. Yeah, so the thumbnail doesn't give us that great of a view. So for the deleted system, what we'll do is just look at it in the table list here. And again, it's going to give us the name of that file, the location, the modified time, the change time, access time. And again, we can get that data as well down here on this bottom pane if we would like. And again, I think we all understand why deleted data can be very important to a case, so I won't really get into that, but that's how you would access to the deleted files, would be through your views. When we're done with the views section, we can look at the results section. I think this is kind of the heart of our investigation. This basically breaks everything down, all the content that was extracted. This breaks everything down a little bit more for us. So I'll click on this, and from here we can look at devices attached, EXIF metadata, encryption suspected, extension mismatch detected, installed programs, operating system information, operating system user accounts, all of these different things that it's kind of categorized for us, which is pretty nice. Again, we could go back into the view system and we can really dial down into everything. We can do that in more of like a manual process. You can do it that way, or you can go into the results and you can kind of go through this more categorized way. I personally like to do it this way. I think it's a little bit more easier. So today we're going to be going through all of these and kind of looking at them and understanding what they are. So that first option is the device attached. If we double click on that, what this is showing us is everything that's been attached to this device. So whether that was like a keyboard or a mouse, or probably what's more important would be a USB device. This is going to tell us any sort of potential information that could have been extracted from this system. So with this one, we see that there was a USB device, a couple different, and also a flash disk as well. So we know that there was potential for some of the information on this computer to be extracted and sent elsewhere. That could be very, very, very useful in a case. So that's very exciting. I had actually not seen anything quite like this before, so I really like seeing it. I thought this could be very helpful in the future. The next would be EXIF metadata, and what this is, what EXIF is it stands for Exchangeable Image File Format, and basically it just specifies the formats for the images that were taken from a digital camera. So what we can do here is we can actually look at, and again, it just kind of depends on how we want to look at it. We can look at the table version or the thumbnail version. It really depends on how you want to do it. Again, I like doing the thumbnail version. I can see exactly what these images are just by through the thumbnails, and I can click on one that I think is appropriate to this case. So this, I don't really have a case, but we're just going to click on this one. And then from here, I have a couple different options. I have the results and then the file metadata. Within the EXIF metadata, it's going to show you two different things. It's going to tell you information that came from the actual camera itself that took this photo, and then it's also going to tell you data that about this image on the computer system. And what I mean by that is, let's first look at the results tab. So this is actually going to tell me data, as in like the date it was created. This photo was created on the actual camera, on the digital camera that created this photo. So this is important because this is actually going to tell us the date that we took a picture of this live image. And so this will tell us the date it was created. So this is the date that actual picture was taken. This tells us the device model and the make. But if we really want to know what time this photo actually got to this computer system, we would go to File Metadata. And from here, this is going to tell us the date that it was created, and any kind of modified or changed, and then it also tells you the hash. So I think that that's pretty neat. I mean, that really could help you in any kind of a investigation. You could actually pinpoint, okay, well, this is actually the date and time of when this photo was taken, and then this is the date and time that it was created on the system. Because a lot of times we just can see what's been created on the computer system. Well, that doesn't tell us the date that the photo was actually taken. So this can be very helpful, knowing the difference between the results, which is going to tell us the date it was taken from the camera, versus the file data, which is the date that it was created on the computer system. So the next I want to look at is the extension mismatch detected. This is basically a filter that Autopsy does that kind of tells us what files are potentially suspicious, basically. Just by saying, hey, there's a mismatch in the extension here. So for this particular one, there's nothing really too crazy here, but it does show us a little bit. Shows us 3 different images that we could look at. And again, I've seen some false positives come up on this, so it's not necessarily something that I think you really have to key in on, but it is a filter that I thought I should probably tell you guys about a little bit. The next would be the installed programs. Basically what this is going to do, this is going to tell us what types of programs were installed on this computer. And again, this could be helpful. This is going to give us a little bit more of an overview of what was happening on this system. How high tech was this person? What kind of systems or software were these people using? So that could be something that would be useful for your case here. The next is going to be the operating system information. So this is going to give us kind of the information that's going to be relevant to the case. It's going to tell us the name of the system, what kind of version this was. This was a Windows version, the processor, all sorts of different things. Again, we can look at the view up here on the top or on the bottom. We can go from our results, and this will tell us the version, the processor, or we can come into file metadata, and it'll kind of tell us the same information in regards to when it was modified, created, changed, all that good stuff. So again, this just kind of gives us more information on the system itself. And then we also have the operating system user account. This is just basically the users that the users for this operating system. So we see that Gene was basically the main user here. We also have the administrator, so we have the administrator and Gene. Recent documents. This could be helpful in a case where we want to know what the person was doing at the right before we got to them. We could come to this recent documents. This is going to show us documents that were recently used. The next would be web bookmarks. I think we all understand what a bookmark is. Some people call it bookmarks, other people call them favorites. So this is going to show us all of the websites that this particular person has favorited or bookmarked. And from here, we can just click on these, and this is going to tell us from the results tab down here some information. It'll tell us the title, the date it was created, the program name, so what browser we were using. For this particular one, it was Firefox. If we want to get a little bit more data, we can. From the file metadata, again, it's going to show us the created and changed and modified. It'll give us the hash as well. And if you wanted to, again, with all of these things that I'm going through, you can always get the hex of it if need be. Again, I think we all kind of know what web cookies are. This is kind of the information that's coming from every website that we're going through. So this is going to give us a list of all the web cookies that are out there. And again, just clicking on here, I can go through the results or the metadata. Web downloads. This is all the downloads that this person has made. And again, if I actually double click on it, this is actually going to take me back up to my views, and it's going to dial down to where this has actually been. So this is going to go through all of the system files. So we don't necessarily really need to do that. Let me get back to my downloads. I just need to click on it once, and this is going to tell me the URL, where we downloaded it, the date that it was accessed, the program name, the domain. Let's see if this gives us anything in the index text. It just kind of gives us the file name. We can do the file metadata. Again, this tells us the created, changed, and the hash. And then web history. We all kind of understand what that is. This is telling us basically what URL this person was going to, so their web browsing history. We can just basically click on one, and this is going to show us in the results everything that we need to know: the title, the web address, the program name, the domain name. If we want to know when this was searched, we can go to the file metadata, and we can see the access created time. And then the last part here would be the web search. So this is going to show us exactly what this person was searching. And again, we can use the results or the metadata view down here, or we can just use this view up here by saying, okay, the source file, this tells me that this is Firefox. I just know that because I've seen a lot of the places.sqlite. The domain, this tells us the domain that was used. So this was Google. We searched through Google, through Firefox, and the text that we used was Firefox 3. With this particular search, we searched for, or I shouldn't say we, Gene, searched for 1980s nightclub. And this was the date that it was accessed and the data source, which was the image file that we created. Or again, we could come down here to the results or the metadata, and we can see all that information as well. The next portion that I want to hit on would be the keyword hits. So this is showing us basically any kind of keyword search that we had used. So if we actually did a keyword search, which this would be a perfect time to do it, so I'll come up here to the top right and click on keyword search. And let's put in Gene. And what I want to use is an exact match. You could use the substring if we don't know exactly what we're looking for, and we know that Gene's a part of it. We could use that as well, or the regular expression, but I just want anything that has exactly Gene in it. And we'll click search, and this is probably going to take a little bit because there's probably going to be quite a bit of Gene in here. So give it a moment. Alright, so my search has come back. Like I said, it took a little bit because Gene is found a lot in this computer since that's the username. But what we can do is we can actually click on the file here, and from the index text, this is going to show us, it's going to highlight Gene. So this is what was detected, and that's why this particular file is showing up. If we want, we can sort these files by name, location. I think for myself, what I would probably do would probably sort by extension. So this would kind of show us, what kind of stuff we want to look like. So do we want to look for text files or what have you? And then from there we can just kind of, search for things. What you'll also notice is if we come down here to our keyword hits, this is going to keep track of all of the searches that we've done. So on the single literal keyword search, this shows me that I have quite a bit of files that showed up on this. And if I come to the right hand pane, this tells us, okay, what we looked for was we looked for Gene. and these were the files that we found. So if I did some more keyword searches, you would see that they would be listed here, and this would show you, okay, what did we search for and how many files did we find on that. The next underneath the keyword hits is what I'd like to look at least would be the email addresses. I don't necessarily know if it's something that you really want to pay too much attention to, because we actually have another email messages area that I think is a little bit more robust, and we can gain a lot more information here. But I think it is somewhat important to understand what email addresses is. When I click on this, what this is going to do is this is going to give me a whole list of all what Autopsy considers potentials to be email addresses. You'll notice that a lot of these are not email addresses. There's a lot of false positives here. So this is kind of why I suggest not to really do too much data searching through here. But it's basically an overview of all the emails. And if you were going to use this, I would probably use the sort here. I would sort by the hits. So this would tell us, okay, this particular quote-unquote email, which this is actually, this was hit 280 times. So this would probably tell us that this was something that was used quite a bit. So something of interest. So let's go ahead and minimize that. Again, let's go down to the email messages. Again, this is a little bit more robust, I think. This is what I would probably use. This is going to show us basically the entire emails. So underneath here, again, I can go up here and I can dial in like that, or I can just use the right pane, double click on this, and this is going to show me all of the email files that we have. It's going to show us the source file, so this is coming from Outlook, where the messages came from, the email, where the email went to. It also tells us the subject, gives us the date received, message ID, the path, data source tags, and then the message itself. And again, what we'll probably want to do is actually click on one of these. So let's click on this email that came from Alex, and it was sent to Jean. And from here, we can go down to the bottom here, and we can use these tabs to kind of gain a little bit more information. So this is going to give us access to look at what this email was, underneath the index text. This gives us kind of an overview. We can look at the header information if we'd like. And it gives us basically the whole email here. Message, this is kind of going to give us just the header information. The results doesn't give us, what do we got here? Again, the header information. Kind of broken down a little bit differently. It gives you the body of the email as well. It's not as nice to look at as the index text, but again, it gives you all the information that you would need. And then the file metadata, again, this is always going to tell you the time it was created, the hash, and all that. So again, if we're looking through emails, this is what I would be using, is the email messages version versus the email addresses up here. I would come down to the email messages and use this tool. It's a lot more in-depth and user-friendly. Now, the rest here, this is going to pertain to things that we found interesting to the case. So if we want to go back into some of this metadata, this EXIF metadata, we'll look at the thumbnails and I say, okay, I really thought that this particular image had a lot to do with our case. So what I want to do is I want to click on this, actually I want to right click on this, and I'm going to go down to tag the result, and I can do a quick tag, or we can do a tag comment. What I like to do the tag comment because that allows us to come in here and say what kind of tag do we want. So Autopsy has different kind of tags that are preloaded in here. A cat 1 all the way up to cat 5, a notable item, follow-up. I like to use bookmark just because that's what I've always used in all my other softwares that I've used. I've just always used bookmark. It really doesn't matter. It's really dependent on what you want to use. So I'm going to tag it as a bookmark, and I'm going to put a comment in here. Interesting photo. And again, this is just a comment for myself, or really not even myself, but anyone that's going to be looking at this case to say, okay, this is a quick comment, just to let them know, okay, this is why I'm tagging this. So once I do that, we're going to notice that if I come over here on my left-hand pane, I have tags. Now I have a bookmark. I have one bookmark. If I double-click on that, result tags, we'll see this is the bookmark of that image. So anything that you find interesting, we can bookmark it. You can tag it basically however you want. And this is something that would be useful if you want to be very detailed in things. If you don't want to just create a report with every single thing, we want to kind of dial into more specific data. We would want to use the download, or not the download, the bookmark or the tag option. And so we've analyzed everything. Now what we want to do is we want to create a report. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to click on create a report. We have different options. I think the best option really is the HTML report. I wish we had an option for PDF. That would be really great. I've used software in the past that created that, and with the PDF report you can actually see the images as well. This unfortunately doesn't give you that. You can use Excel report as well, but I don't think it's as easy to read. I prefer the HTML, so we're going to do that, and we'll click on next. And this is what we can do. We can do a report for all the results or just the tagged results, so all the bookmarks. I only bookmarked one thing, so we're not going to create that report. That would be very small and wouldn't be very useful. So for today, we're going to do the all results so we can kind of understand exactly what we would be looking at in this report. And actually, if we wanted to, we could go a little bit deeper as well. We could get a little bit more specific, and we can go to data types, and we can say, okay, I don't want to include the accounts, I don't want to include the keyword hits or the web search, but I do want to include all of them. So we'll select all, hit OK, and hit finish. And now we're going to be creating this report. Now this will take, well, it didn't take as long as I thought it would. It's complete. So now what I will do is, this tells me where it's housed, where this report was housed at. But for now I want to look at it right now, so I'm going to click on it. And it opens up a web browser for me. And from here I can see, well, if we look from the left, it's going to basically break everything down from us. So we have the case summary, we have the EXIF metadata, we have the keyword hits, the tagged files, the tagged images, and the tagged results. Okay, I had to pause that because I noticed that I accidentally just did the report on the tag data. So I went back and I redid it, and this is the actual report of everything. So again, this is going to show us the case summary. Again, this tells me the case name, the case number, the examiner, the number of images. And when I say images, that means the system, so the image file of the system. We only had one. Then we can go down to the account emails. It's going to tell us all the emails attached, the devices attached, email messages, So again, this is going to break everything that we looked, all the data that we were analyzing. This is going to break it all down for you. So again, this is something that I wouldn't usually recommend. I wouldn't recommend doing a report on everything, because it's going to show us every single thing that we looked at before, which is a lot of data, and it's going to be way too much for someone to comprehend. So I would, in the future, I would suggest that you do you would create a report on the items that you have bookmarked or tagged. But again, this is good for us to kind of just see everything. This shows us all the EXIF metadata, installed programs, keyword hits, shows us the operating system, and then the image that we tagged, the results, the web history. It shows us everything. So again, that was very robust in regards to that report. Again, I would create a report that's really in regards to your bookmarks and your tags in the future. But that is all that we're going to go through today. I hope this was helpful. When we're done, we'll just go through up here and we'll click close case, and it's going to kind of save everything, and we're good to go at this point. We can go ahead and close it up. So I appreciate you guys sticking in there with me today, and I hope you learned something. Thanks.